Okay. Again, my name is Crystal Marion. Thank you so much for coming to share this time with us. We're so eager to give you as much information as possible about the position. And then you'll be able to ask any questions in regards to the position, the process, the role. We have our leadership team here to be able to share information about the work and then answer any of your questions. And I will be able to answer any questions directly related to the process. Want to welcome each and every one of you. Want to remind that last person that just came in, we are recording this session, so if you do not want to be on camera, feel free to turn off your video. At this time, we're going to get started, and I'm going to ask Audrey if she would like to go ahead, start us off, and then the rest of our leadership team. Let's actually introduce our leadership team first, then we will have our director start. Jen, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Jen Coney. I am one of two deputy HR directors. I'm working for Audrey in ODHS, and I work with our Employee and Labor Relations Unit,
Thank you,
as
Jen.
well as FEMLA, OFLA, and ADA and other protected leaves.
All of that. I gotcha.
All of the fun stuff. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Kim, you're here? There you are.
Here I am. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kim Deweiler. I'm the second of two deputy HR directors. And my area that I support is recruitment, classification, compensation, our HRIS system, which is Workday, HR consultation, policy, training. I'm sure I'm missing something. But we'll just stop there. It's good to see everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Kim. Appreciate you being here. And Audrey, is there anyone else we need to introduce before I hand it over to you?
Not that I'm aware of. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Um,
then at this time, I introduce to you our director, Audrey Manyweather. Crutch. Want to get the whole name
hey,
there.
welcome and thanks for your interest and participation in this informational session around this particular position. This position is a leadership position on this HR leadership team and for this organization. And before I move into that, I guess I should back up a little bit and say I am Audrey Manyweather Crutch. I'm the HR director. I've been here since 2021, and I've been with the state for 23 years and have been in HR with the state for since 2010. And so it's really exciting to be here. It's exciting to do this work here at ODHS. We are in the middle of a transformation and really how HR shows up, the customer service that HR provides, and the inclusiveness of the work that we do, which I've always believed when you're inclusive in your thinking and your environment, it gives you an opportunity to be equitable in your decision making across the board. And so we're putting in a lot of practice around equity and inclusion around our HR practices and being trauma informed in how we approach our work. So I'm really excited to see the number of folks interested in this position and really want, and I'm looking for someone to join this team who also is equity minded, inclusive in their approach, in their thinking, and is a strong advocate for trauma informed approaches as one of the many attributes that we're looking for because it's what it's what our mission and vision is about. And this organization is about caring for people. We're human resources, but we're here in human services. And doing this work is hard enough. And when we approach it from an equity mindset and inclusive thinking. It makes that work just a little more palatable, and it helps us in our decision making. So welcome. Uh, that's just a little bit about me.
Audrey,
Yeah.
may I interrupt you for 1 second? I am so sorry. We do have Dion on the call, and I would like for him to be able to introduce himself as one of
Oh, okay.
our partners here.
Yes, because I was getting ready to tell you to jump right in. So thank
Oh,
you.
thank you.
So let's move forward with Crystal introducing another guest
D
and partner here
D
in this agency.
Dion, I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself and who you are.
I appreciate that. Jumbo, everybody. Dion Jordan, he, him, his. I'm the director of the Office of Equity and Multicultural Services. Our Office of Equity works hand in hand with HR. We cannot do our work without HR, and HR doesn't do it as well without us. And so every step that we take, Audrey and I try to be step in step, and this position is no different. So definitely excited to meet you all today. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Dion, and please forgive me. I did not know you were on yet. So thank you, Kim, for letting me know, and thank you for showing up. All right, Audrey, back to you.
Um, I don't know, Crystal, if you want to open it up for questions or if you wanted to help me kind of walk through just really a little bit about the position, the background of the position as we posted it, and then I can fill in some gaps in other things around the position as well.
Well, a few of the questions that have come through are really about the role of the position. So if you'd like to start with just talking about the role, how this person will show up within the organization, and then we can take questions along the way. And
Okay.
hopefully all of those questions will get us to all the places we need to be. Is that okay?
No, that is perfectly fine. This position, what I'm looking for in this position is a right hand to all things strategic around equity and partnership with our Office of Equity and Multicultural Services. As Dion just introduced himself, we work hand in hand across both of our organizations because the work we do impacts so many people from so many different backgrounds and so many different demographics that we need someone in this position who understands what that means, because this position will deal with a lot of the policy work that we do, the clarification that's required for us to make at times, because sometimes we feel like a policy might not be inclusive, but in actuality it is. How do we work through those things? How do we really help align our practice and process, the deep root of our practice and process to really be equity informed in our approaches. And so that makes the partnership this position has with our Office of Equity and Multicultural Services extremely important. And while the position actually belongs to HR, it doesn't belong to HR. This position will be in lockstep with our equity office and some of the different components of concerns that come up throughout the agency, throughout the types of services we provide, and some of the things that we experience when we are implementing policy across the board. And it's not a position that is isolated and alone. It is a partnership across program leadership. When I say program leadership, I'm talking about our organ eligibility. I'm talking about our child welfare programs. I'm talking about our self-sufficiency programs, our vocational rehabilitation programs, our 24-hour SACU, which is a stabilization and crisis unit that we serve supported individuals, and our adults, our disability offices that we have. And this position really does consistently align with our practice, and just really walks a line of this is how we step into this work. This is what it truly means, and this is how we can be supportive. How do we get to positive outcomes, given the fact that we are in difficult times, difficult situations, and the policies are what they are, but how we deliver those services and roles within our organization is extremely important to us. It's extremely important to me and how we show up so that we can be truly a world-class organization that focuses on equity and focuses on inclusive dynamics and the differences that we have to navigate and work through. So this position is responsible for those conversations, for those clarifications, for those policy changes that may need to take place, for actually navigating and having the difficult conversations around some of the work or some of the impact of our policies and laws and rules. And so this position will heavily be involved in those pieces and sitting beside me in a lot of situations, and Dion, in a lot of situations where we're having, how can I say this, where we're having discussions where program is experiencing maybe a situation and they need to have a balance in the room that really understands how we communicate and how we carry out these actions that may need to be carried out in partnership with program and in partnership with our OEMS office. And so that position does that. This position also will be working with our culture change office, which is also in our Department of Administrative Services arena. The work that they do at Culture Change really is the driver for how we, the state itself, approaches equity and inclusion. And this position will be responsible for coordinating alongside our Office of Equity and Multicultural Services, OEMS partners. And this position also will be responsible for a partnership in the Affirmative Action Plan and making sure that the affirmative action plan is updated, is accurate, is being, the intent of it is being carried out in partnership with our OEMS partners, because it is not a one size fits all. It is a partnership that really we want to put in practice things that we can ensure can be done. We don't want to have policies for just having policies. We want to make sure that we can actually be inclusive and implement the practices that we are putting in place. And so this position will be responsible for that as well. And it will sit on leadership conversations so that we can capture, intervene, or help try to positively impact the change that the agency is trying to see when it comes to our laws and policies that we have to carry out throughout this organization. And so this position is critical to that as well. This position has to really understand program. It has to understand state government, and it also has to understand HR rules because there's some things that are just what they are, but how we deliver those services and how can we be impactful, positively impactful, or trauma informed as we deliver our services or practices or education even. This position takes the lead in the partnership with that, as well as the partnership with our other strategic policy analysts we have on this HR team. So we have four positions here in HR. One is a data strategist. This position will be in partnership with that position. There's also a position that is workforce development in training strategist as well. And then there's one more. Oh gosh. there's the training and development strategist. There's the, I don't know, Kim, if you can help me out.
Absolute risk mitigation.
There you go. Can I forget that one? That one's dear to my heart. And our risk mitigation strategists as well. And they work, that's the core team. They work in unison alongside Kim Detweiler, Jen Coney, and myself. And we are a strong leadership team we're very inclusive and very informative with one another about what we're doing, where this agency is going, and how we are implementing in our practice. And again, this position will also be responsible to Dion's office, and it will work alongside our service equity manager, and in strong partnership with the service equity manager, because this is where a lot of that work is also in the weeds of HR practice and our equity practice as well. And Dion, I don't know if you want to share anything or thoughts related to that. I'll open the floor for you as well, because you worked alongside the previous person in this position, and I also want folks to know what your thoughts and what your feelings are around this position and how critical it is to you as well.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I think you did an outstanding job. I don't really have a whole lot more to add. Just a little bit of understanding of what would be helpful in this role for the person who fills this role is really understanding that balance between equity and also human resources, right? Because it can be super tricky. And so on one side, you might think about human resources, and also thinking about the idea of things being fair. And then sometimes you think about the equity office, and you think about justice. You think about equity versus equality. You think about everybody get along versus controversy with civil. There's such an area to bump. So you really have to have a broad understanding of what we're trying to accomplish as an agency, and really understand our equity North Star that really kind of helps, set the tone of where we're trying to go. And I also say, what's easy, I tell people in our office, the work is hard. Like, make no mistake about it. It's tough days, but it's such rewarding work. And I will just say this from our office, you really got to know how to separate your own personal equity journey work versus your work, right? We're government work. You can't say and feel and push everything that you might do on your own personal social media life when you're working here, because it's a different agenda on how we're trying to serve our community and serve everybody. So I say all that to say, because I really want whoever's in the role to be successful. And it takes an emotional intelligence, and just an overall broad understanding of equity, our equity North Star, as well as human resources. So, yeah, super excited for whomever might fulfill the role. Thank you.
Thank you. And so 55% of the work that is done by this position is on agency policies and operations. And 40% of it is on diversity, equity, and inclusion and engagement. And again, it's a lot of what Dion just talked about, as far as just really some of the equity versus equality and what that means. And that can be some difficult conversation at times. And this position will be really carrying the load for really clarifying and ensuring that we are within we were within our role and responsibility as an employer, not as a client, not as a customer. We deal with the employees who may be impacted by some of these policies. And so this position is so strategic and so value added that it's difficult to do this work without it. And so this position is really, really a critical partner, and make change for this organization that typically hasn't been done. And so we are not afraid to do the work. We're not afraid to partner. We're not afraid to have those conversations, but we do need people who understand what these conversations mean and how they impact and what it says about us as an employer and the employees that we serve. And so I wanted to really speak to that piece when you think about what the duties and responsibilities are. When we have legislative session, this position will be right there reviewing and adding value and providing feedback as relates to the bills that come across through the legislative session. It will partner with some of the workforce demographic data that we have to look at when it comes to how are we doing as an organization and how are we moving through really with if we've done recruitments, how are those folks who've been through those recruitments, how are they holding up, where are they at in the process, and have we retained them or are we losing them? What does that mean? This position will be heavily involved in that in our metrics in partnership with our data strategist, who really does a lot of the gathering of and analysis of the work that we do. This position is a hand-in-hand position with that position as well. So there was one more thing that I wanted to share before I move to any questions or the next steps. And so give me 1 second. What's most important to me in this position as a person who's actually managing the position, as a creator of the position and watching it grow from an idea to a success and a critical component of why we exist and how we support this work as employees of ODHS. And that really is the cultural humility and responsiveness of the person in this role is critical. And when I say that, it is this position engages in so many different areas, so many different backgrounds for so many different reasons. And the ability to be nimble and appropriate, understanding the legal impacts of statements that are being made, that can jump in and be a supporter of the information that's being shared without being critical and harmful in how we deliver the messaging. That is a interesting talent to have, but definitely one that is needed in order for this position to feel like home for you. Really not being afraid to have cultural humility conversations and appropriate, I should say, cultural humility conversations and being responsive to what's happening on ground in the moment. It is so critical to how we do our work, and this position is a big impact on that. And so I want to be very, very transparent in that the person in this position really needs to have that balance and an ability to speak strongly and to clearly and to walk into a room and have a conversation with me without being fearful of what the response is going to be, or being able to call Dion and say, Dion, oh my gosh, this is what I just experienced. We just heard this conversation and we need to strategize so that we can come up with a process to deal with this harmful statements that are being made, or anything like that. Dion and I are open to conversations. We are some of the most approachable people you're ever going to want to meet, but there's times when people fear those conversations with us, and we need someone who can have those conversations with respect, with humility, and with understanding, because we are state government as well. So that's a little bit about the position. The energy that you're seeing from me right now is the energy that you'll see every day in this position. We don't shift that energy, period. We're raw. We are realist. We understand what's going on around us. We understand what conversations need to be had, and we are careful with how we have conversations because we want to make sure that people are taken care of. And I truly believe that there's a way to have conversations, and this position needs to understand that and lead those conversations. And so Dion and I are open to feedback. We're open to hard discussions, and this position will facilitate a lot of those discussions. And so I want to be clear about that as well. So understanding HR practice and policy is critical, but also being flexible enough to understand, well, if we shift this a little bit, it doesn't change the content of what has to be required. But we can't change the requirement because it's the law, right? As an example. So those are the types of conversations that you'll be engaged in on a daily basis, on a regular basis. And the fun part is that you get to be engaged with me all day, and that's pretty cool too. So it's just a little shout out for myself. You know, some days you have to just do that.
I'll give you a shout out, Audrey. Yes, she is always very open and transparent in conversation. So my hat's off to you. If I don't have one on, but I would be taking
if
it off
you
to you
have
right
one
now.
on, take it
Yes,
off.
most
Just shift
definitely.
it a little bit. But now that's really a little bit about the position. That's just really being upfront with what this position will do, and open for any questions or next phase of the process. Crystal, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, we'll take questions. If you have a question, please just raise your hand in the virtual world, and then I will be looking through the chat. We do have a question in the chat here. Let me just go to that. First question from the chat is, what might an optimal background or work history be for the top candidate in this role? Do you have anything in mind?
That's to me.
Yes.
Okay. So I definitely am looking for someone who has HR background, knowledge, and experience, because this position is a human resources position and really does answer to the statutes, the rules, the collective bargaining agreements, and the policies that we are required to follow. That is critical for me, in having that knowledge and background is number one. Having an equity background is also extremely important, because again, this position is a position that will look across all backgrounds. It's inclusive in its thinking, and it understands some of the dynamics that shift between different cultures, different religions, different backgrounds, different abilities and all of the things, because we're human services and we touch across all of those different backgrounds and cultures. So understanding that cultural humility and how we approach this work is, I'm looking for some background there as well. And if there's legal background, right, that gives you some insight on the policies, the rules. It's not required, but it's a strong attribute, but it's not a deal breaker for me. I'm looking for the right personality, the right level of experience and someone who loves policy, loves interest in legislative session, in what's happening in other areas as it relates to uh, uh, practice across the board. So definitely an HR background, definitely an equity background. There's definitely some supports around the equity understanding and just really some of the cultural humility that is a extreme plus for the work that we do. And if you've got a legal background, yay, that's even more of a positive for me, but not a required attribute. And just understanding the collective bargaining agreement is extreme. If you've been in a union background and you've had experience with major unions and small unions, is important as well. And that is something that would be extremely value added. And finally, what I'm looking for in this position, as far as background is concerned, is someone who is an educator by nature, loves to educate and explain, as you know, because this is difficult work, difficult conversations, and you can't just say yes or no. You've got to be able to explain the why behind in order for you to be successful in this position. So it's just a few of the things that I'm looking for.
Thank you, Audrey. We have a question from Samantha. Go ahead, Samantha, with your question.
Hi there. I was just curious, how closely does this position work with union representatives, or is this position primarily working with management in navigating those situations?
Good question. This position is not typically working with union, but it has on occasion. But it has not been like you must have a relationship with the union, but you have to understand the union aspect in order for the other pieces of this work to work. So not the physical in the room with the union, but understanding the union contract, understanding the differences between that, the law and the policies. And if, there's a difference or discrepancy, how do we align to make sure that we are meeting the union contract of the language, not just the policy and the law, right? And so that position, so to answer your question, it does not directly at all times work directly with the union. It actually works with management and leadership, and in a lot of the conversations that managers don't feel safe having, or really need to have a better understanding of how do I implement this and actually have an equity mindset as I'm delivering this language that is required to go this way. This position works mostly with the management.
Okay, thank you. I just had one further question.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned about data and just essentially keeping a thumb on retention
Mm-hmm.
and of the recruitment process and things like that. Are we using exit interviews from the various districts, or how does that data get transcribed into HR?
So our HRIS system, which is Workday, is where the exit interview surveys are gathered from. We have our data strategist who pulls the information. This person would work right alongside with them, and even going through the exit survey data to find trends, concerns, things that we need to go back and review and make sure that we are following up on. This position works side by side with the data strategist to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're going to take a question from Justin, and then we'll go to questions from the chat.
Thanks, Crystal. My question is for both Dion and Audrey. Thank you for hosting this, first off. But Dion, you referenced the person that was in the role before this, and I wanted to learn a little bit more about maybe an example of success. Like, what was something that that person did, or a milestone that was reached recently that you could describe for us to paint the picture of what this person might be doing in the future, but also what this person has done in the past to kind of give us a benchmark.
So this position has been vacant for a while because this person was so good at what they did. This individual actually was a liaison for pulling together and partnership with our OMS office, and I'll let Dion speak a little bit more about that. But conversations with program leadership about policy impact. This position did a really good job in pulling those together and having those difficult conversations and helping leadership understand how to implement these policies, how to bring those concerns forward so that we can talk about the challenges and experiences and help educate and look at ways to improve. And this, it was difficult because you had a lot of folks who were angry, frustrated because these policies don't feel like they are representative of and something we're required to do. And so this position was very, 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 very successful in pulling all those leaders together, having those conversations, not taking the information personal, but channeling it and assessing it and trying to help support what next steps would look like. But it was a meeting for leadership. Didn't take ownership of it, didn't interfere in the thinking and the processing, but had to be clear about what we could and could not do in the practice as concerns came forward. Dion, that's one example. And the reason why, I'm going to be very, very transparent here. This position has been vacant for a while because I was in hopes of the person coming back. And when the person didn't come back from a rotation, it took me some time to really even be able to describe, right, and pull together all of the pieces that this individual did in this position and how, and the reality of how critical it was for the success of the work that I needed to get done as an HR director in the agency this size. And so this position, they handled those conversations so well with grace and humility without judging. And that moved the agendas that we had along even further than even I anticipated because of the environment that was being created for the conversations to be had and folks feeling free to be able to work through those things that they needed to work through. Dion, and I'll turn it over to Dion.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good example. I will also say just did some great work with affirmative action, right? And the work that needed to be take place there. So we have a service equity manager from our office who works very closely with HR, and this person is going to work closely with them, right? In things like affirmative action, in things like a lot of these policies and conversations. So it really is hand in hand, working together and helping us see what we might be missing from an equity standpoint, from an HR standpoint. So, yeah, but I think the example Audrey gave was wonderful. But I did want to add affirmative action is something someone can sink their teeth into, and we have copies we can share as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to take a couple of questions from the chat. So one question is, knowing the work can ebb and flow based on many factors, what do you anticipate the workload to be like on a regular basis, especially as it relates to working beyond 40 hours or odd hours?
That's a good question. It's an interesting question. And so I'm going to selfishly respond that I don't expect anyone on this HR team to work long hours or odd hours unless absolutely necessary. So I run a HR department that I expect work-life balance and which makes the role even that much more critical, because when we're at work, we may smile, we may um, uh, enjoy being around one another, but we get the work done. The work is so important. We are very, very work driven and process driven. We are creating processes that I've never seen before, because of the excitement and the just really the accountability of folks in these roles and the partnerships that they've been allowed to align, right? And so work-life balance is extremely important. But I also know that the staff work anywhere from 40 to 45, 46 hours a week if they have to. When in times where the HR staff might have legislative session, as in even any place who's dealing with the legislature or who's having to respond to a fiscal analysis in the moment, those are hours that a person's going to work odd hours, they're going to work extra hours, but they make those things up through the other time, because again, it's a project, it's a time that they actually have to be focused on that body of work for a period of time and be available when needed, and that can be unpredictable. They do not bargain. Our labor team does the bargaining. So when we have bargaining sessions, those round the clock type hours and those sorts of things don't happen with this group, but the bargaining team may reach out to this person for questions about potential contract language that might have an equity impact. What do we do with this? And that partnership is missing right now because we don't have that person. And so that's something this person would be doing right alongside our OMS office, really, as we talk through some of those topics or language and being very inclusive in that manner. So as it relates to this particular position, again, it is a position that works hand in hand with leadership, with management, and is my right arm and the work that I do here and the intention behind that. But this role is not one that would work 50, 60 hours in a week. There's no expectation. And if you're doing that, it's because you want to. And I'm still going to tell you to knock it off, but I'm not going to force you because, again, we're all adults, we're professionals, and there's some things you get engrossed in and you just don't want to stop until you get it completed. But that's not an expectation of mine. It's not an expectation of the deputies. And so this position is, I believe in work-life balance, and I believe in leaving your work at work and going home and caring for your family.
Yes, I know that to
That
be
helps.
true. Thank you, Audrey. Work-life balance is important. So another question from the chat. Are skills from other compliance backgrounds seen as transferable, such as investigative backgrounds or civil rights backgrounds?
Absolutely. Civil rights background is extremely important and value added skill set, because the work we do, it really impacts a person's rights. At times, civil rights investigators are strong in their understanding of policy, the law, statute, the rules, and how to do the research when there's a question that comes up and you're not calling someone else and saying, I think I heard 5 years ago that we were doing X, Y, and Z. No, they're pulling it up, they're doing the research, and they are actually saying, this is the statute, this is the law that drove us here, this is the history and the background. They're doing their homework in order to give a well-rounded and solid response. That's what I expect in this position. Civil rights background is closely aligned with that, and typically does have a lot of the same requirements and skill sets. And so, yes, very transferable, and something that I would look at very favorable, given the type of work we have to do. But it's not all that we have to do. We have education, we have training, we have policy development, we have a lot. And the civil rights has leaned more on the legal side and the labor side, which again, it's a strong is something I would welcome.
Thank you. Next question in the chat. While this is an HR position, is there any type of site visit or travel across the state to meet people in person?
Um, So I don't want to give up too much because then I'll be giving up all my cool ideas, and you gotta work for me in order to get those cool ideas. So I'll say this position does not do a lot of traveling across state, but it doesn't mean it can't. There are things that this position might want to improve or support, and it could be a recruiting event. It could be a recruiting opportunity. It could be that this position wants to meet with a whole leadership program and they want to do it in an offsite. This position would certainly be supported in meeting with leadership wherever leadership wants to meet. But is that an everyday thing? Absolutely not. Did it happen in the past? Yes, it did. There were times when we go to Portland from Salem to meet with a leadership team because there's an event that happened or a meeting that needed to take place, and I felt that this position needed to be present for the consistency of the conversation and the support of both the program and HR and OEMS. And so this position also will work with, and again, you have to be here for me to give you all the details on this, but we have Dion and I are creating a team that this position would partner with as far as some of those difficult conversations would go. And so this group that this position would be supporting really would help and could travel to support or facilitate a difficult conversation and a real conversation and make sure that it stays within the guidelines of the policies, but the raw conversation may need to happen. This position would be traveling alongside other leaders and other HR supports. This position has also helped in investigations where there had to be a individual who someone felt unsafe having a conversation and we needed HR presence, but we needed someone who actually could be a voice in the room of equity as this particular situation was taking place. And so we've used this position pretty uniquely, and it has been nothing but a positive response. And wow, why has there not been someone doing this before? Why hasn't the care been taken before? And that is because when I came into this organization and partnered with Dion, we both got together and really talked about, it's not necessarily that HR has to perform its duties whether people like it or not. No matter who walks through the door, no matter what their background, ability, it doesn't matter. We are here to serve every employee across the board equitably. But there are some pieces of inequity that happens that have to be talked about, that have to be realized and socialized. And this position is that conduit for that conversation, if that makes sense. And so, so as it relates to some of those thoughts and ideas around this position traveling, there were times when it will have to travel, but the schedule is not every day on Thursdays, you need to go travel here and travel there. No, this is the professional position, and the individual in this position will be setting their schedules and making sure that they're available for those times that require a softer or more personal approach, which is why it is a hybrid position and not a remote position, because this position is utilized in a lot of different ways. And in person is going to be important for this person to really, really shape and mold this position for themselves.
Thank you, Audrey. So we have a few more questions and we're at 4:26 and we have 4 minutes. So I'm trying to go through which question might be most important for everyone here. How does this position or agency engage with diverse stakeholders, including protected classes and historically underrepresented communities during the policy development process?
So this position is not a policy development position. This position deals with policies that we already have, laws, statutes that we already have, and policies that are new, that do come in from DAS and other areas, and really trying to help folks understand what the policy is stating, providing feedback to DAS as it relates to different policies that DAS is developing. This position is a reviewer of that, and they also work, like I said, alongside our OMS office as it relates to that position as well. So the policy might be a review, update, and then those that we are developing internal to the agency, this position would be a critical person in that development of the policy, because of the fact that we're human resources and we need to ensure that we're in alignment with state law and DAS policy and all of those things as we help create new policies across the board. Trying to be quick with my answers. Man, you're muted.
Sorry, thank you. The last question I think we'll be able to take from the chat. What will the first couple of months look like for someone hired in this role?
They get to hang out with me quite often. So that would be the first 30 days. They would meet with the Office of Equity and Multicultural Services with the team. They will meet with the Service Equity Manager. We'll go through the position description. We'll talk about some of the outstanding items that really need an equity transformation look and review and development of, that has been lying in wait because we haven't had that expertise on our team. And so this position would actually be looking at some of those things. But the most important thing is onboarding, understanding the culture of this organization, understanding just really how things work. So it would really be a lot of meetings and introductions, and then stepping back and looking at the development of the work. Because this culture is so different, it's really difficult for someone to just come in and hit the ground running. And so there is an expectation that I have for anybody who's new into this agency, and new for me in HR, is I ask them to be new for a year. I ask them to be new for a year. Take that year of trial service and be new, understand, ask questions, and be curious, because this position is actually one that will have to answer and support curiosity from others who may not understand. But you got to understand the dynamics of this agency, the culture of this agency, and really understand that government movement, because it might be a hurry up and wait on some things because of the dynamics of how we have to navigate and move with DAS around some of these pieces.
Thank you, Audrey. Okay, so for process related, basically the position closes on the 17th, 11:59 p.m. So you need to have your applications in. Make sure that you're reviewing the job announcement. If it requires a cover letter and a resume, whatever it says it requires, you want to make sure you get that in. If you have any questions before you submit, please, I will get this particular recording downloaded to a YouTube. I will then go back to Workday. I will send it out with other information that came up during this time together and make sure that I send in all that information to you. If you have not yet applied, but you would like to get the information, please send me an email. My name and email address is listed at the bottom of the job announcement. But it is very critical for you to please pay attention to the job announcement, what's written, the things you need to make sure that you're including, and how you need to include that. If you have any questions, I am here till 6, Monday through Thursday, and I entertain those questions. So please feel free to send me an email. I will respond. Trying to think if there's anything else. Once I
So
start,
if I didn't answer any question that you think need to be asked, we'll get the answer and send it out to the individuals who want to get
yeah,
those answers.
yes. And if there are any additional questions, please send those and we'll get those. Once I get the response to the question, I will then go back. I'll send it to the person that made the request to the email, but I'll also go back to Workday and send it out so everyone receives the response. Just want to make sure you're aware of that. So, but if you have questions before that time, and this is not my only recruitment, but I will be more than happy to respond to you. So if you have questions, please send those questions to me. All right. I think that's it. Are there any? Yes, thank you to everyone for being here, for your time today. Thank you, leadership team, for participating in this process. I appreciate it. Yes, perfect. And I will get this recording to you as soon as it is made available back to me. Okay? Take care, everyone.